Welcome to this week's Techniques in Two video, and this is on verbs. Now, you might be wondering why I am talking about verbs, a part of speech, in a video on craft. Well, action and movement are really at the heart of storytelling. And again, to harken back to some other videos, when I say story, I don't just mean fiction. I mean nonfiction. I mean poetry. I mean screen and script writing. All of these, the heart and soul of readers being able to see what's going on are the things that characters do. These are the most vivid, most revealing things in a direct way that allow readers to put interpretive pressure on things that we can provide. And so when you're telling your stories, you really want to think about how the verbiage you use can, as precisely as possible, capture actions that are taking place. So I've kind of got a list of verbs that it's worth avoiding. The more often, and this does not mean that these are universally to be reviled, or that if you ever use them that you've done something inherently wrong, but usually there is some better option for how you're structuring and selecting the language that you use. So to be verbs, and particularly phrases like it is, there are, there was, there were, are a little stagnant. Usually there's not direct action happening there, so you might rewrite those sentences. So for example, there are cats lurking in the house. Something more direct would be cats lurk in the house, right? So those ways that you can re-tinker with verbs to make that more active. Got, in terms of I got out of bed, I got my coat, she got her keys. Think of a more precise verb that you can utilize. Another similar one that's not on my list here is make your way to. So he made his way to the front door. Well, that's not really showing me much about how he's getting there. So can you think of something else that you might use to really make that more vibrant? And then the other thing is unintentional repetition of content words, especially with verbs. Now, sometimes there's a meaningful reason to remind us over and over of very specific verbiage, but thinking about when you repeat verbs, if there's not a reason that you've articulated for yourself, you might think about how can I revise with more variation and vibrance. The one exception to this that I would use is having to do with dialogue tagging, and that is the said words, as I mentioned in the dialogue video. The reason for this is most readers actually generally tend to gloss over dialogue tags. When dialogue is really working well, we just look for the markers of who's speaking. And so you just have to have a verb there to be grammatically correct. And so it's okay to have that kind of repetition. I don't usually give a lot of recommendations for in these videos because I know that people are writing all sorts of things, but I'm going to. Two of my absolute favorite short fiction writers who use verbs in ways that I think can be really instructive for everyone are a writer named Julia Elliott, especially in her book The Wilds, and Amy Bender in her collection The Girl in the Flammable Skirt. Another great one is Ramona Ausubel in her book A Guide to Being Born. So if you really want more on these verbs, I would think about going to one of them and just plucking up a couple of their stories and seeing the various ways that verbs are really precise. And I missed that I had a slide on this. So again, that dialogue tagging, those simple options are your best bets. But ultimately, be creative at the end of the day. And this is where those writers that I just recommended really come in. Verbs are very malleable. You can think about how you can slightly transform and move away from the kind of original dictionary definitions and meanings that a lot of verbs have to give your work extra vibrance and to do creative things with language. And that will make your work memorable and unique in the way that you want it to be.